Oetjens, and welcome to Schooling Around. With the 2014-15 school year now behind us, we thought we would step back and take a look at all that happened. From personnel changes to competitions to performances, it's been quite a year. We'll have a look at some of these in a moment.
Drownings are a leading cause of death for young children. Make sure kids learn how to swim. Always watch them in and around water and properly fence all pools. Simple steps save lives. To learn some new ones, visit poolsafely.gov.
In the fall, we learned that our Assistant Superintendent of Instruction, Dr. Jim Schwarz, had taken the superintendent's job in the Avondale School District. Ken Weaver, a veteran principal at our middle school, was offered the job.
Dr. Skilling at that point came to me and said, you know, I think we need somebody that's been here helping move our initiatives along and understands them, and would you like to take his position? And at that point, I love Oxford and have had nothing but just an awesome experience. Matter of fact, I just recently moved into the area and was extremely happy.
As if you didn't have enough to do.
Yes. Yeah, that is added quite a bit to us. The new move into the house, and then on top of me changing positions and getting everything situated, it has been a lot.
Ken explained the biggest change with his new post.
Changes that I won't have the daily contact with the students. That is going to be something that's going to take some time to get used to. You know, one thing working here, I had 1,130 some students here, and if I was feeling like down on something or frustrated about something, all I had to do was go find some students, interact with them, watch them interact, and everything changed, and I remembered why I'd gotten into this profession. Now I'm going to be located over at Central Office. I'm going to be a level removed basically from the students, so that part's not going to be, I mean, I'm always going to be working for the benefit of the students and trying to do the best that I can and ensure that they have the best education, but I'm just not going to have that daily supervision and responsibility and stuff. Plus now I'm going to be over, the other big change is going to be that I'm over all of the programs. I'm over all of education K-12. Before I was just over the middle school section of it basically, and responsible for the implementing that section of the curriculum.
You're really the head curriculum guy right now, aren't you?
Yes, I will be overseeing all of it. Pre-K to 12th grade and beyond in a sense. We have so many different educational opportunities. It is an immense job. I always appreciated Dr. Schwarz and all that he did, and just think the world of him. But I never fully understood everything until I've tried to start walking in his shoes. And since doing that, it's been a bit overwhelming.
So who would take over Ken's job at the middle school? It turns out Dacia Beasley, an assistant principal at the high school, was up for that. She talks about the biggest change for her.
I think the biggest role change coming into this job is being a support person to being the lead person. And what I mean by that is as an assistant principal, I've always supported and been in a supporting role of my principal. And so moving to the role of principal, now hopefully I have good support people under me.
It's all on you, and
it's all right. The buck stops here.
Dacia's not a newcomer to the field by any means.
Although I don't like to admit it, I've been in education for a pretty long time. This is my 24th year, I believe, and I've been an administrator now for in middle school, for 19 years. So it is I would think, aspiration of most assistant principals to eventually get their own building and become a principal. I was not, traditional in the sense that I wasn't in a very big hurry to have a principalship because I so enjoyed my work as an assistant principal. And that means that I was working with students every day, rolling up my sleeves and helping families, and that's a job that I really enjoyed. Being a principal, it takes you a little bit away from the students, and so I wasn't ever one to put that as a career goal early on in my life. But as you go through your career, there are things and opportunities that come up that you kind of say, I'm ready for this now. This is a time in my life that I'm ready for a new challenge. And going to the middle school is just a great opportunity. And of course, staying in Oxford is a blessing.
Teacher Dan Balsley is used to success with his auto tech boys, and he's got a trophy case full of awards to prove it. This year had its ups and downs. AAA Ford didn't go so well, although a couple of the guys did get scholarships. On the other hand, it was third place finish at Mites. One thing Dan added this year was a local mini-Mites competition. Dan explains.
Well, I'm trying to inspire the students in my Auto Tech 2 and 3 class to improve their skills. A lot of times when they're studying just out of the textbook, they don't see a real world application for it. And so this is reinforcing some of their skills and giving them a fun way to do that. I've solicited sponsorship. Some of the sponsors for this year's competition are the Oxford Rotary Club, McDonald's, Steve's Oxford Automotive, Wright Tool Company, Tom's Hardware, and Snap-on have all chipped in to provide some of these prizes for the kids as they go through the competition. We're going to have 7 areas. Each of those areas will have skills that they'll have to perform. So right now in the classroom, they're going to be taking a written test. Out in the shop, we've set up for some additional areas in electrical, measuring, brakes, suspension, steering, and alignment. In the electrical area, we've got components that they're going to have to test and diagnose. In the measuring, they're going to have to use different measuring tools to take measurements for a number of different situations. In brakes, we're going to have identification. We're also going to have assembly of components and measuring of components. Over here in suspension, we've got 2 vehicles set up. One is for identification, another one is for testing, and then we even have a steering and alignment over in the corner. And they're going to be checking those components and making alignment recommendations for that vehicle, as well as reading tire wear on the tire that's alongside. Yep. I also have a scan diagnostics area, and that's back here, the GMC. And here they're going to hook up a scan tool, download fault codes, and make recommendations for repairs in the data stream.
Okay, are these kids going to be in teams? Is that it?
No, this is individual.
Individual.
So each of the students will come out, they'll have their own score sheet, and they'll have to go around to each area doing their own work, and then they turn that in and they get scored against an answer key. So then what I'm going to do is award prizes first, second, third for each area. So a student may do well in a number of areas and be eligible for a number of prizes. And then I'm going to try to do an overall winner as well, the high score in each area. But it's an individual competition. Each student would be in charge of their own responses and their own scores.
One of Assistant Superintendent Ken Weaver's big challenges was the state's new M-STEP exam. Ken fills us in.
We ended up with the M-STEP because of the fact that Michigan was part of the Smarter Balance Consortium, which was a group of states coming together to create online assessments over the Common Core curriculum, which the Common Core is adopted in English and in math. And it was set to go into effect this year. They were the state legislature, for political reasons and concerns over the federal government intrusion on local state rights to govern education and concerns over the test, pulled the plug on being part of the Smarter Balance and told the State Department of Education to find an alternative.
But why did they decide to get away from the MEP in the first place after it had been enforced for 4? Did it have something to do with Common Core?
Yeah, with the Common Core, you had different set of expectations. And the MEP tested Michigan's developed curriculum, and it was a paper pencil test that had been developed. So it wasn't adequate to measure the Common Core. In matter of fact, we've been doing that for a while. A lot of schools had started to transition over to the Common Core because we adopted it in 2010. It's actually Michigan's curriculum now. They just don't refer to it necessarily as the Common Core.
Right.
So what they were looking for, though, is because of the No Child Left Behind legislation, you have to have certain requirements as far as testing goes.
Now, what grades of kids will be taking this test?
It's 3 through 8, and for this year, it's grades 3 through 8, and then grades 11th grade. Now, the 11th grade will still be taking the ACT, they'll take the work keys, and then they'll take a combination, a new MME test, which is basically local assessments. That will make up the M-STEP for the 11th grade, but grades 3 through 8 will have the reading, writing, and math, and then they'll also have science and social studies.
We'll lighten things up with some jazz in just a moment.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Hogan, host of a new show called Let's Get Strolling. And what I do is I interview local businesses and interesting and fun people, sometimes event planners, sometimes the residents of Oxford, maybe next time it could be you. Join me next time on OCTV on Let's Get Strolling.
Some fine things happening over in fine arts this year. Our jazz band took a peek at an old favorite, Dave Brubeck's Take 5. Director John Hill shared some thoughts about the kids' reaction.
And it's great because it's all new to them, and they really, so I say, okay, check out the recording of Dave Brubeck playing it, check out recordings of other people playing it. There's thousands of recordings of Take 5, for example.
Take a look at the Paul Desmond sax solo. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we're looking, it really, I always make sure that whenever I'm programming music, and it could be rock, it could be jazz, it could be whatever, but it's real, it's music they're going to hear another time in their life and become a consumer. It's not just music for educational purposes, although it is educational. They also have there's a historical background to the music, and I think that's really important.
Then on our stage was none other than the Wiz, the Wizard of Oz, that is. Teacher Christopher Card, who directs our choir, was one of those leading the way. I chatted with him about what leads up to such a large undertaking.
Wow, this is a great question. And when we choose a musical, there's so many things to consider. We like to involve the entire music program, so we're looking at the vocal program, the theater program, the band program, and the orchestra program. So we've been looking at shows that complement each. So we look at what instruments we have, what vocalists we have, what actors we have, and we think, okay, with this talent pool, what would be a great show for that? Also keeping in mind what the community might be looking for. So we like having our auditorium packed with members of the community, and we are sure that Wizard of Oz is going to bring people out.
And what kind of paperwork goes on behind the scenes so that you can do any one of these famous plays?
Yeah, for sure. There's starting from just getting the royalties and the rentals going on. So that's the start of it all, which is an application process. And we've never had a problem with that, but there's certainly quite a bit of paperwork to take care of on the front end. People usually don't think about that. Then you roll into your getting the directing team and your production team put together and communicating with them. So our costumer's been already working for us, our choreographer, just some planning meetings. We've already talked special effects for the production. And for Wizard of Oz this year, we are flying actors. So we've been working with ZFX, a flying company that comes in, rigs up the system so our actors can actually fly across the stage. So a lot of front planning. Then we roll into auditions and continue with the production planning, rehearsal schedule, things like that. So before we even start rehearsing, there's hundreds of hours put in.
You mentioned royalties. So we have to pay money in order to perform these plays. Where does that come from? Is that from the school budget, or where does that come from?
Really, the entire musical budget is self-sustaining. So when people come to see the show, it's all paid for out of the tickets and any ad sales that we make, concessions we do, things like that. But it all has to generate its own revenue to pay for everything from royalty to costumes to set construction. All that stuff wrapped into one, which is quite expensive.
Then it was off to New York, New York for our band and orchestra. Orchestra director Bill Milisevich talks about performing in a cathedral there.
Yeah, St. Paul the Apostle Cathedral, and that was one of the highlights of the trip for me. There were two things that stood out in particular, in addition to everything else that we enjoyed doing, but one was the performance experience there at the church. The other was the 9/11 Museum. I'd never gone to that since it opened, and I had been hearing wonderful things about it over the last almost 1 year now. And so it's something that I anticipated before we got there, and even though I knew what to expect from things that I've read and things that I've heard. It wasn't until I was in it that I realized just how powerful it felt, and the gravity of just being there.
I asked him what was most memorable for his kids.
I think that one of the more memorable things will be the pace, having nothing to do with the city proper, but just more the feel of New York, the pulse, the quickness of the pace, and just the sense of purpose that the city brought on all of its inhabitants, where everybody was just on the move all the time. We were too, but we were there on the move to catch a bus, to get to the next thing, not miss dinner. But the people that live and work there, it was pretty obvious that it had a quick pace for a city, and everybody was on foot. The traffic was something that will be very memorable, I think, in their minds. Some might not want to come back, especially not to drive, but it's a wonderful place to visit. And I think that on the opposite end of that experience, one of the things that the kids will remember is it is a fascinating place to visit because of the density of people, all the people watching, all of the different activities that they got to participate in, and the quality of the shows. The level of the experience for a school trip was very, very high in terms of the saturation of the cultural component.
Jim Gibbons is our band director. He explained what they did.
Church, the band performed at the Statue of Liberty for people literally from all over the world. We had tons and tons of folks who were videoing our performance who had nothing to do with our group or with Oxford. And as I was conducting, and then when I got off the podium and let the drum majors conduct, I got to hear people talking, and I heard Spanish, I heard Japanese, I heard Chinese, I heard French, I heard German, people who were watching our performance. So literally people from all over the world heard our band and heard that performance, and so I was very, very proud of the students. We saw 2 great Broadway shows. They got a chance to tour the city and experience the city. Probably one of the biggest historical highlights of the trip is we got to spend time at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. So kids got to get kind of more of a first-hand look at the something historical that has changed the way we live today, and got to experience a very powerful museum. And I think that from an educational standpoint, that's something that can't be duplicated in Oxford. Same with the performance opportunities that we had and for the people that we performed for.
I heard there was something really unexpected.
Something extremely unexpected right after we finished our performance of the Statue of Liberty. I happened to be on the phone, and I noticed that SWAT, along with NYPD and the Park Police, were deploying to the front of the statue because someone had called in a bomb threat. And this is the first time, I think, at least in several years, that they've had to evacuate the statue for the Liberty Island for something like this. And so in about 5 minutes, they rounded up 2,700 people that were on the island and put us on 2 different ferries. We had all of our kids. I got the parents to push everybody to the front of the line, so we got on the ferry we needed to be on and get our equipment on the ferry, and made for a great story. We had to sit out on a ferry in the river for an hour while they cleared the island, and then they eventually didn't let people back on. They sent us back to the dock where we got on boarded the boat to go to Liberty Island, and we were seeing on the phones how why we had been evacuated, that there had been a bomb threat called in. So we were following on the internet, CNN and MSN and Fox News and all that, so we could see that, we're part of a national story here.
Some memories there, too.
You know what? It was the first time we've traveled the band and orchestra together, and so it was very nice to have some camaraderie get built between the instrumental music department at the high school. So that was a highlight of the trip. And each trip, it's the thing that's exciting for me as the teacher is to see the kids, get to watch the kids experience New York City, whether it be Times Square or Liberty Island or a Broadway show. I am thrilled as the teacher I am thrilled to see it through their eyes, so to speak, and to watch them experience the city, especially most of the students had never, I think maybe 1 or 2 kids had ever been to New York City. And so it's awesome for me. So the highlight is to see this group of kids get to interact with the city and learn about the city and experience New York. And it's exciting to me when I have kids come up to me and say, Mr. Gibbons, I want to go to college here, or I can't wait to come back and visit again, or this is where I want to live. So I think I've opened up a door to someone who lives in our little village of Oxford, opened up a door to probably one of the greatest cities in the world.
Our high school musical groups count a lot on the talent coming up through our grade school and middle school to keep them going. One of those groups is teacher Jan Flynn's middle school drummers. We visited Jan and found out how this whole drumming thing got started.
It was originally created by a gentleman in Wisconsin named Will Schmid, and he went to the Remo company, which is the biggest drum company in the world, and he said, I have a vision of being able to introduce world music drumming ensembles into the schools for children of the middle school age in particular, upper elementary and middle school. And it not only teaches learning how to do music, but it also teaches us how to listen to one another. It teaches us care and compassion for others as they learn their parts. It teaches individuality because they have to hold on to their own part while someone's playing a different part. It teaches them creativity so that they can learn how to do new things while listening to others play different parts. It is accessible because the students learn rhythms fairly quickly, and within quite a short amount of time we are really creating wonderful music.
What is really impressive is her array of musical instruments.
So these are the instruments that I created. My husband helped me create them. This is West African Padauk, and it's a beautiful wood that shimmers in the light. Underneath you'll see PVC pipe that has been tuned to each individual bar. And each individual bar had to be ground to a specific pitch and overtones. So all of the pitches and overtones are specific to that note. And so here we have a 3.5 octave marimba, and we have 5 of those. And then there are 3 contrabass marimbas in the back, which are the lower pitches and have the bigger tubes on the bottom.
You and your husband made all of these?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that's what we did, and it's been a wonderful experience ever since.
Meanwhile, over at Oxford Elementary, we have Peggy Mueller and her super singers.
And that's why I had said to them during rehearsal, because they get very excited, and they almost are like yelling sometimes. And as a director, a lot of times I struggle with students, especially the older students, to sing louder. And so it's a nice thing to have to say, because they get so enthusiastic, they start getting very, very loud. So I have to kind of say, a little bit quieter, don't, start to yell through it. But yeah, they really put their hearts into it. And that's what gets me going. At the end of the day, sometimes when rehearsal's coming up, I can honestly say, I'm like, oh, feeling a little bit tired, but they come in, and how can you not get excited and wake up when you hear those little people singing with their whole heart?
And what does Peggy think motivates these kids?
I think it's a partial social activity for them to be able to be with their friends. I think they love performance, though, I guess above everything else. They love to sing, and they love to perform. We do several concerts in December where we just sing, and then we do a big musical in the spring where we do all different kinds of things. We've done the show Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, we've done Aladdin, we've done last year we did a big Disney show, and so the kids get to do not only the singing aspect, but we do some acting as well.
Just down the hall in the middle school is Mrs. Dote's classroom. She's in charge of the Code Club. These are kids in the 3rd through 5th grades who learn computer code. She explains more.
So we meet on Mondays after school, either in this room or also in the media center. The kids signed up voluntarily, 3rd, 4th, or 5th graders, and we work through programming challenges and logic.
One of their projects this year was the Hour of Code. More on that.
But then Hour of Code is an international week where a lot of, I think it's 48 million people signed up to do programming that week to learn.
I just checked the website this morning, and actually they've had 76 million people so far
And I don't know if that's over more than a year, but that's a lot
that was last
of
week.
people.
They said 48 million. That's amazing.
Yeah. And what are some of the special things about the Hour of Code? Does anybody know? Go ahead. How about you in the back right there?
The very special things about the Hour of Code is that it's really simple. You connect the blocks to make the code run. You hit start, and it runs. And a little tiny thing we all do is step by step. See an error, fix it, try again.
So what do the kids like about this?
Like all the challenges you can come through, and there's different levels like Angry Birds, Artists, Zombies. Free Draw is one of my favorites, and I bet it's most of other people's favorites, but you have to get through all the levels to progress.
They even go into other classrooms.
It was really fun going around teaching other kids in different classrooms because they have never heard of it, and it was a new experience for them.
From code to robotics in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Connie from Connie's Kitchen here on OCTV, which is channel 99 on AT&T and 191 on Charter. Join us here on OCTV, join me in Connie's Kitchen, and learn to have fun in the kitchen, to relax and enjoy yourself. Come on, what'll it hurt? You'll have a good time.
The Oxford High School team Torque 2137 had a great year. Our robotics team made it to the first world competition in St. Louis. While they didn't win first place there, they did make it to the finals, and they were considered the best Michigan team participants. Drew Saddam and Evan Mintz were two of the senior teammates. They explain.
We got assigned to the Tesla division, and they start off with the qualification matches where we ended up placing third in our division.
After the qualifying rounds, we were placed in third place, so we were the captain of the third alliance. We choose three other teams actually to be on our alliance, and we go into the tournament round competing with them.
Okay. They set it up in quarters, semis, and finals. During quarters and semis, to move on, you have to be in the top half. Your team's average score has to be in the top half. And so after the quarterfinals and semifinals, our alliance was number one.
I asked them their best memory.
Mainly making it as far as we did. Making it to the final rounds of the elimination tournament was the farthest our team has ever gone. And because we even got to the third round of the best 2 out of 3 in the finals, it was more exciting because our team has never made it before in its history.
Wow. What about you?
This year I was able to go down on the field to help as the pit crew. Last year I was just stuck in the stands. I was a scout, which is still a very important thing to be. This year I got to go down. I was the expert for our robot, and so after every match I had to run a check on it, replace the battery, do everything that it needs so that it would be ready for the next round.
So what was the best thing robotics gave you?
I guess experience is the biggest thing. Being able to go and put on my resume that I've had experience working with a multitude of different machines, softwares, and even getting hands-on experience working on a robot itself is a huge step up for most other high school students.
The biggest thing for me was being able to work with other people. Before joining Torque, I was a big loner, but now I have a lot of friends. I know how to work on a team, and I've even learned how to lead quite a bit.
Robotics does more than build robots.
We help recycle old electronics that couldn't be recycled otherwise.
And we also do other things in the community. We do like can drives. We've helped raise money for like St. Jude's. And we've also done other like recycling-based projects.
Do you guys get involved helping out? Like, I know there's a robotics team in the middle school. Do you ever get over there and talk to those guys?
We have people who go over there and mentor. Both students on Torque and mentors on Torque go help. And then Torque is actually a sponsor for them because they originally didn't have enough money to pay for their admissions to the tournaments that they go and compete in. Torque gave them some of our money to help sponsor them.
Along with a lot of satisfaction, Evan and Drew both won scholarships for their efforts. That's Schooling Around for this week. Thanks to Kyle Snades at the controls, Dan Zweiss at the editing desk, and you for watching. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.